anyone knows that's worked in with any kind of live thing, you never know what's going to happen. It's always one of our most nervous things. So we're back here for take two. We'll kind of start over, have that conversation again. So if you couldn't hear us, hopefully you can hear us now. I'm Ed Brown with the Chamber of Commerce, and I have with me Lieutenant Colonel John Mayer.
Yep.
I always say Meyer, it's Mayer.
Either
Mayer.
one's fine.
Yeah. And we were talking about the Sentinel upgrade to our missiles. So let's back up. Okay. So how long, missiles have been on alert since 1962. How long has the community been heard, or how long has it been since we should be upgrading these missiles?
The community's probably been tracking it for 5 years, something like that. I think that's when the first set of letters went out to landowners that gave them a heads up that we're going to be replacing this weapon system. So some letters went out something like 5 years ago, and it's been ramping up since then, just because we're starting activity in the missile field, getting ready to do on-base construction starting next year, and well, technically started yesterday.
Yeah, started yesterday. We have shovels in the
Yep.
ground with the new gate.
Give credit for that, and then yeah, activity doing surveys in the missile field now, and we'll start some land acquisition early next year, and we'll start construction probably around 2030.
Okay. Jordan, we're good on sound. Perfect. So we're all fixed there. So let's go back a little bit. So our community has been on alert since 1962.
Yep.
Kind of brief that again.
Okay. So Minuteman I went into the ground, was installed in, first missile came online during the Cuban Missile Crisis at Malmstrom in 1962. That was Alpha 6, I think it was. You can see it. There's a historical plaque out on the way to Showdown Ski Resort. You can see on the right-hand side there. And starting on that date, we've had at least one missile. It was one on that day, and up to 200 online available to the commander of US STRATCOM since that date. So 24/7, 365 for 63 years. Started off with Minuteman I, and then we went through the upgrades for 2 and 3. And here's Sentinel to take the place of those. It's dramatically more, it's a much bigger upgrade than those previous ones. Those were internal electronics, a new missile, but the concrete and the infrastructure and the cables buried in the ground are all original to 1962. So Sentinel is an end-to-end replacement with new infrastructure, drilling new launch silos right next to the old ones, but replacing the copper with the fiber. So end-to-end 100% replacement of Minuteman.
And so what I like to correlate, and what I think I've heard from you guys, is stories about our airmen out in the field. Because when you're taking, I mean, you think of like you have a 1960s vehicle or a 1970s vehicle, and you're trying to work on it and you can't find parts.
Yeah.
So currently our airmen have to make parts, is from what I understand. Not necessarily for the missile, but just for the whole process of maintaining that.
Yeah.
Make
Literally
parts
making parts is probably an exaggeration, but
Yeah.
yes, it is very challenging to source replacement things for this. So it's a relatively small number of missiles. Even at its peak, it was 1,000 across a bunch of different missile bases. So we have, if you're trying to replace a new vehicle that is 20 years old, is a big one of our challenges. If you need to only buy 20 of them or something like that, and they're the only 20 that are ever going to exist, it's hard to find contractors that are going to do that work. So yes, very much a challenge. The folks here at Malmstrom are not the ones dealing with that acquisitions process. They're usually at Hill Air Force Base, but here at Malmstrom we're doing heroic work with the tools available and the parts available to keep the missiles online every day. They're doing a great job.
Right, and then you take into account our terrain and our weather over the last 60 plus years.
Yeah, it's of the 3 missile wings, Malmstrom is significantly bigger than the other 2. It's 13,800 square miles, so we've got drive times of more than 3 hours in some cases at the beginning of the workday and at the end of the workday. So if that's winter, there's a really challenging day just based on the environment, much less wrench turning on the weapon system that's a few decades old.
Yeah, so long days for our airmen.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And Jordan, checking again, all good. Okay. It's always this technology. All right, so let's talk about, I know there's not a timeline. You said 2030 for first missiles in the ground, roughly.
I think 2030 is a good plus or minus year for beginning installation of the fiber. That's like the first actual construction we'll see. FE Warren is probably going to have its first missile online in 2033 is the goal, and Mount Sterling will be shortly thereafter. So our first missile will probably be online soon after 2033.
But our current missiles are still capable. I was just in California and saw
Yeah.
the capabilities
Yeah.
of a test
You can
missile.
testify to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Minuteman III is doing really, really well at exactly what it was designed to do. That design, though, is from the 1970s if
Right.
you're talking about the guidance and the electronics. So it's doing fantastic at doing what we needed it to do in the 20th century. It's just that we need more capability out of it in the 21st century. Our adversaries have different systems, and we got to stay relevant to the 21st century threat.
Okay. So I think we were talking before we lost sound about the surveyors who are out right now.
Yep.
So they should be identified. They are making calls to the landowners, letting them know they're coming. They're letting law enforcement know. So if you do see random people walking around and you're concerned, what should you do?
Yeah, thank you. We really, really encourage and want that two-way communication. So if you see something, you're doing us a favor if you call law enforcement and just let them know that something looks a little different or you had a conversation that didn't quite sound right. They should be able to really quickly, they've got the information available to them. Sheriff's office, for example, of vehicle descriptions, plate numbers, driver's license numbers, things like that. They can call my office and we'll get that verified really quickly. So yeah, the footprint is massive and we don't have enough airmen to be supervising all of that. So very much appreciate the local community helping us out, make a phone call. And yeah, long term, I hope to use venues like this to make sure that people understand the big picture and what we're doing so that it's not just people showing up and you having to decide if they're good guys or bad guys and making phone calls, but I want the community to really understand what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Perfect. All right, let's get back to construction.
Yeah.
So yesterday, shovels in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The start, exciting times because it's been, talked about for 5 years, but it's been since the 70s
Yeah.
that these are put in the ground. So you said there's some buildings coming. What can our community expect to see besides the building on base as we drive by?
Yeah, so the gate is the construction that we started yesterday. You've seen some cranes off to the right as you come into Great Falls for the weapons generation facility. We've needed that. That's going to be dual purpose for both Sentinel and Minuteman, so that's not strictly a Sentinel building. The gate is what you're seeing right there on the right, and early next year, using that gate and the access it provides, we're going to start upgrading the infrastructure on that southeast side of the bases where all the Sentinel buildings are going to go. So the infrastructure is new power substation, new water tower, new fiber in the ground, all of the things that we need to build 500,000 square feet on that side of the base. And then the construction of the buildings above ground that we need to operate Sentinel are probably going to start early 2028. Depending on the building, takes 4, 5, 6, 7 years to get all of that construction fully in place. So that is very much on schedule and is not dependent on any design issues anywhere else. The missile and the launch silo and all of that is still very much in development, and so missile testing, first flight is going to be next year sometime, and the launch silo design is firming up really quickly so that it'll be ready to start construction in time for those 2033 plus dates that I was talking about to be online.
When we see the construction, what kind of influx can we expect or should we expect of either more military or more contractors, or is that still to be determined?
I love it. Great question. So using the weapons generation facility as an example, that in terms of footprint for contractors is very similar to the other buildings that we've seen. So up to the viewers and your assessment of, I haven't heard dramatic impacts to the traffic on 10th Avenue South or something like that. So
They already complained about it, so it doesn't matter.
I don't know that's in the low hundreds of workers that came in to do that construction project.
Okay.
So we're building a lot of relatively conventional construction on base. So those contractors have not been assigned yet. They haven't been awarded the contracts yet. So I can't name the companies, but how they do it and where the workforce comes from and all that kind of thing will be up to those construction contractors. I know with the weapons generation facility, they tried to use local workforce as much as they could. So you'll see some influx of construction people, but I don't think it'll be that dramatic any more than any normal construction project that you'd see in Great Falls. Military influx is very small numbers, but some. So my organization would not exist if it weren't for Sentinel coming. So my detachment is, a year ago was 2 of us, and now we're about 20 people. Max number is below 100 for the active duty people assigned to that unit. So some increase, but total number of active duty at Malmstrom, I think, is about 3,500, 3,600, something like that. So relatively small proportion. At peak construction, when we're doing launch silo construction, there will be a lot more human beings here, but the influx won't be active duty, won't be uniform, won't be permanent with families in housing and affecting the school district. Most of those are going to be relatively temporary workers, and they're going to be out in the missile fields because that's where they're doing their work. So exactly what that looks like, things like workforce hubs, is largely going to be determined by the contractor that's doing the construction, and we'll be around, we'll be helping with the negotiation with the community and that contractor, but it's really a direct relationship between the contractor. They need to figure out what makes the most sense for their methodology and their optimization, but it's not going to be large numbers of families buying houses, putting their kids in the schools, and driving on 10th Avenue South. It's going to be out in the missile field because that's where the work is.
Okay, so not like the 5,000 influx of people with man camps and where the man camp's going to be. I mean, these are conversations that were discussed in the past.
The environmental impact statement dated 2023 is open to the public. It's available on our website. You can read about workforce hubs, is the term we use there, not man camps.
Workforce hubs.
So that document is still current. It hasn't been rescinded.
Okay.
But the program has evolved significantly since then. So there's going to be a supplement to it, a supplemental environmental impact statement coming out really soon. I hope it's this summer. Don't quote me on that, but hopefully it's coming out soon. And that'll contain our best guess on that kind of information.
Okay.
So we have to evaluate all the options because we got to comply with NEPA and the environmental laws. So everything presented in that document isn't necessarily going to happen. It's kind of all the options that from which will be selected, because we have to evaluate them all. So it'll talk about workforce hubs, but it'll probably be pretty vague about the location just because we haven't chosen a location, the contractor hasn't chosen it. So it'll talk about rough numbers and rough locations of, west of Great Falls or east of Great Falls, things like that.
Okay. Remember, you can ask us questions if you have any questions. Jordan, I'm guessing no questions have come through. Okay. So with that, you said they're trying to use local workforce whenever possible. My understanding is there's possibility, and there still is happening, current contractors, local contractors working with certain projects.
Yeah.
Right?
So local contractors that I can think of are the geotechnical boring activity that we've done. So we did 13 sites in the deactivated squadron last summer, and the contractor that did that work was WET, and they were a subcontractor of Northrop Grumman. That's a Montana company, I think based out of Butte, and so they got rehired by Northrop Grumman for similar activity this summer. So that's an example of where it made sense, and so that's what happened, and I'm a fan of seeing the work go to a local company whenever we can.
Yeah, I think most of us are. Or is there anything we missed about the project that's coming up? I know that the timeline is not exact yet, and things happen. There's been a lot that's happened with the timeline since this project was first announced. So
another important data point, I think, is just to talk land acquisition, buying land. We use needlessly complex words, but just buying land. So right now, most of Malmstrom's launch facilities, is what we call them today, are about 2 acres in the active missile field. Sentinel is probably going to need about 5 acres.
Okay.
So between now and the end of the program, we're going to have to survey the land surrounding an existing site to make sure it's suitable, and then come back and negotiate acquiring that additional acreage. So if someone owns land, they can expect that process in their future. Additionally, we have perpetual easements for the buried copper cables today that we're going to lay fiber through. We don't have all of the easements that we need. We need some additional connectivity, so we'll be acquiring some of that land as well. So the surveys for some of that land acquisition process is going to happen towards the end of this year. Starting next year, if you own land, you might be getting a letter or a knock on your door from the government or a contractor to start that process. So if you have any questions about that, and we'll provide information at the end of this, please reach out to my office, and happy to allay concerns or provide more information.
Okay. When I think about, and I know this probably isn't it, but I'm thinking about the disruption when you're having to come from the community out to the rural areas.
Mhm.
You know, it's going to be a little bit different.
Mhm.
You don't have a timeline from when that's going to start.
I don't
Disruption, I
understand the
mean by
question.
construction.
Yeah.
You got to run fiber all over the
Okay.
place.
So when is the fiber installation going to
Yeah.
happen? At FE Warren, there's a pilot of that construction methodology happening starting in the next month, I think.
Okay.
So a lot of our answers are, we don't know yet because we haven't figured out which construction methodology we want to use. But at FE Warren, they're going to be figuring
gonna
that
figure
out
it out
this
for
summer.
us.
Yeah. So there's a handful of options that we're going to experiment with there. In the 60s, we just dug a big trench and dumped the dirt back in. So that's one option we can do. It's really disruptive to the surface, to alfalfa crops or mature trees. I'm getting phone calls from landowners about that stuff. It's disruptive, it's slow, it's expensive. We would rather avoid all three of those. So
Yeah.
horizontal directional drilling sounds really promising, and we've heard from industry that that's the way to go. It depends on some unknowns and some like soil at FE Warren is different than here, so they're going to figure out a lot there. We're going to probably start experimenting with that next year if I had to guess. So it depends on what we learn from the pilot at FE Warren, and it depends also on what your land looks like. So whenever possible, we're going to minimize the disruption. We want to go fast and efficiently and as inexpensively as possible. And all of those interests are very aligned with the landowners. We don't want to be on anyone's land longer than we have to. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I asked it in a weird way, but it was a perfect answer.
Timeline wise, we've got a pilot going on at FE Warren this year. I expect to start installing fiber, if I had to guess, 2030-ish, something like that in Montana, and it'll probably start up in the 564th as the deactivated squadron. Using that squadron we haven't determined that to be an option finally yet. So there's the environmental impact.
You're taking all the steps to
Yeah.
get it to
We got a 2-year evaluation process to make sure we can use it, but that's our plan right now.
Okay. No questions?
No questions.
Okay, so I have one more, I think, question is, so we talked about if people see something, say something, basically.
Yeah.
They see something that they feel is out of the ordinary, we'll provide at least a phone number they can call, but call their local authorities just to let them know, because we just don't want random people walking around in your land. They shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But what else can the community do to help or support as this process is going on? Is there things that, especially businesses?
Yeah. I don't get that question that often. I don't have super specific information about the trades that we're going to need, but my eldest is a 14-year-old right now. For people about that age, I think there's going to be lots of opportunities in construction trades. As the design firms up, we're going to know more about the blend of skills that are necessary, but welding, construction, concrete work, all that kind of stuff is going to be very much in demand. So if you have a high schooler, if you're a high schooler, like, now's a good time to pay attention to shop class is one thing.
If you want a good high-paying job,
Yeah.
that makes a difference in your
Yeah,
community.
and stay out of trouble with law enforcement, because we're going to do background checks. I think if you're a local business, it's a great time to think through how you could benefit from it. I don't want anyone to go invest resources based off of information in this conversation. So
Right.
understand the timeline, be conservative, don't take promises from me as fact and go get loans to buy food trucks and things like that. But
We
it's-
need more food trucks, so but don't use your advice to buy the food
Yes,
truck, right?
Your advice. But it's definitely worth thinking through, and it depends on the small business. But we make referrals to Apex Accelerator all the time, is a great organization.
Through GFTA, yeah.
Yep, that can help you understand how to contract with the federal government and get on SAM.gov and get some some early practice by interacting with the wing and the 341st Contracting Squadron. If you can get in now with a contract with the federal government, it's great to understand the process so that you're ready. For the most part, I think the bulk of the work will be with a prime contractor of some kind. So you should be thinking probably, depending on the business again, about how to subcontract for a prime. So you could start paying attention to websites of organizations like the Army Corps of Engineers or Northrop Grumman, those kinds of organizations, companies, and how they do subcontracting work. I'm not an expert on that, but I think Apex Accelerators could definitely give you advice for that too. The Workforce Hub thing, I think, is it's gonna happen in some way. The number and the size of them is undecided, but you could start thinking through, if you have hundreds, small number of thousands of people out in a rural community that are working hard all day long, but they need food and entertainment to some degree, and we don't want to lock them. We want to keep them out of the community in terms of law enforcement and behavior, and we don't want to disrupt everybody, but we also want them to interact with the community, and we want to show off Central Montana and give the rural communities, everyone, a chance to benefit economically as well. So yeah, I think
that's a good answer, and that's what I've heard is it's like, we're gonna need your 8th graders, so get them ready. And really, I think it's an opportunity for, and I have an 8th grader, and I know she doesn't think that way, but it's an opportunity, like, you could be part or involved in one of the largest infrastructure projects in U.S. history, and really build upon that to form an amazing career on whatever you want to do. So
I didn't give a good impression of the duration of the timeline, but I think it would be, we would, even though we're going as fast as we can, it's just such a complex, big project that, like, this is 10 plus years, very easily 15 years. So if all of those thoughts about how to get ready for it, or potential jobs for a high school or something like that, like, there's easily a career spent coming alongside the federal government and building Sentinel in Montana.
And so another question, the design is supposed to be last longer than Minuteman. Minuteman was a 10-year design, roughly. This is how long?
On paper through 2075.
Yeah, I've been told that I won't be alive when this is it's supposed to be out. That's someone keeps saying that, and I'm like, come on, man. Yeah, he likes to tell us that we're not going to live very long.
Yeah. So yes, thank you. A long duration, and that's what we're planning for. Minuteman was planned for 10 years. We'll see how long it lasts, but we're designing it from the get-go to be upgradable and to have modular design so that you can swap out components a lot easier than Minuteman, that was never designed that way. So metaphorically, not the way it actually works. We have to use soldering irons in order to redo circuit boards, as opposed to plug and play a box that was designed to be swapped out in Sentinel.
Yeah, that makes sense. Once again, working on an old 60s car versus modern, where everything is modular. Any questions come through? Stan, I don't think we have any hard questions. So if people do have questions, where should we direct them?
I would rather put it in chat so I don't get the phone number wrong. So
that's I totally get it.
If you Google, though, Air Force Global Strike Command Sentinel, AFGSE Sentinel, there's a central page for the whole program, and it's got our local. Just look for a 406 number there, 406-731-2427. Did I get that right?
Hey, you got it right. What should we be worried about?
I saw him pull his phone out to be able to check me. So you can call that. That's my office, and if you leave a voicemail, if we don't get to answer your phone call right off the bat, we'll give you a call back. And I would really love to have more two-way communication in between town halls. If I didn't have to do another town hall because we were communicating so well every day, that would be awesome. It's probably not going to happen, but if you have a question, don't wait until fall time. Reach out. There's also a email address on that website, and a big part of my job. Lots of other people can do the engineering and the design and the construction and the deployment, but a big part of my job is making sure the community is as well informed and prepared for this as possible. So I would love the questions. I would love to be able to communicate better than we have up to this point, because it's coming.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Yep.
Glad
Have
this
a
worked
wonderful
out.
day and a good weekend. And if once again any questions, he gave you the information. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Staring at the
All right.
camera.
We're good.